Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again. If it's your first time here, then as always, it is good to see you and I hope you're going to stick around. Okay, now I know it's Wednesday, I know it's midweek. Normally I would upload a gameplay video midweek on a Wednesday normally. But unfortunately, as many of you that follow the channel and myself on social media may know, I am currently injured. I am getting better, which is great, and I should be able to get back out to my regular games shortly, hopefully. But that has prevented me actually doing any gameplay for just over a month and a half now. So I haven't been out to my regular games, so I haven't got any gameplay footage for this midweek video. So what I thought I'd do is I'd do a quick short video here in the studio, just so we've got a midweek video to look at, and we'll look at a subject like we normally would at a weekend. That brings me on to, if you are enjoying the content on my channel here, then do consider subscribing to the channel. You won't miss any uploads from me that way. I always upload midweek, normally a gameplay video, as I say. And then every weekend we do one of these studio videos where we'll discuss everything Airsoft related, from gear to tech to replica reviews and everything in between. So if you do enjoy and like what you see, then do please subscribe to the channel. So with that out of the way, what are we going to look at today? Well, what I thought it might be fun to do, as we'd normally be doing a gameplay video, is I'm going to do another list of 5 items. But it's not my normal list. I'm taking this from a lot of stuff that I see on social media surrounding Airsoft. A lot of questions that get asked on some of the communities. I'll often see newer players, or maybe players that aren't so new but have got a new replica, and the first thing everybody always asks is, what should I upgrade? What should I improve? What do I need to change on this replica? So I thought it might be fun today to look at 5 upgrades that you can do to your replica, relatively cheap, relatively easy, and should make some measurable difference to the performance of your replica. Now, I'm not going to include sights or any attachments on the externals of the replica, because to me, they're dress-up parts. Yes, they might make a difference to the handling of the replica, but I really want to look at what I would class as an upgrade to the actual performance of the replica. With this in mind as well, as many of you know that maybe do follow the channel already, I don't normally recommend upgrading a replica until you've used it a few times. Get a feel for it. You might like it as it is. And the old adage goes that if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Wait until something breaks on your replica before you consider pulling it to bits and replacing items. And these are items that I would recommend having a go at yourself. Some of them I've made videos for showing you how to do this. So without any further ado, let's crack on. So what's the first thing we're going to do? Well, let's say that you've got yourself a nice shiny new replica. This isn't a nice new or shiny replica. I've had this one for a while. It's one of my creations. But having said that, it is an AEG or electric replica, and that's what I'm going to be looking at today. If you've got yourself an automatic electric gun, an AEG, then these are some upgrades that you might want to do if you're looking at the first upgrades and simple upgrades that are worthwhile improvements. Okay, now it doesn't have to be an AR pattern replica like this one. It can be any electric replica. It's cross over for all of them. So you've got your replica, it's brand new, you're not quite sure what you're going to do to it, but you've decided that you're definitely upgrading it, and nothing I can say about, if it's okay as standard, then leave it as it is till it breaks. Well, change your mind, you definitely want to upgrade something, and that's great. I'm a tinkerer myself. I like playing around with these things. As soon as I get them, very often I will make changes. But let's have a look at what we can do. We'll start with the relatively simple items first. Now, the simplest thing you can do, if you've got a battery with your replica, then great. Some of the replicas do come as a kit and you get a battery with them. Very often the battery that's included will be a NIMH battery. If you look through the channel, you'll see that I've done a lot of videos on batteries. So the first noticeable improvement I could say that you could make is get either a LiPo battery or a lithium-ion battery. Both of these batteries are 7.4 volt. Now, you'll get a lot of debate online about whether a standard budget replica, for example, can handle a LiPo battery. And my answer would be yes. A 7.4 volt, relatively low C, this one's 20C, will be absolutely fine in the vast majority of replicas. It's going to make the motor spin a bit faster, not much, but a little bit. If you have a 9.6 volt NIMH battery, then the power of the 7.4 volt LiPo battery, that's going to be very similar. This is just a tiny battery I use for testing. You probably want one with more milliamp hours than this one. But obviously you can look into my battery videos for that for a bit more detail. But yeah, a LiPo battery or a lithium ion battery is going to improve your replica no end. You'll get better trigger response. You might get a slightly higher rate of fire, and the big advantage of lithium polymer and lithium ion batteries is they're much smaller and you can get a lot more capacity in a lot smaller package, so your battery is going to last you a lot longer. So they're an upgrade, in my opinion, from a NIMH battery. If you're happy with your NIMH battery, that's fine, but if you do rock the free one that maybe came with a replica, depending on what your first replica is, the free ones are okay, but I would still recommend getting maybe a better NIMH battery as well. If you're on a NIMH battery, the chances are it won't have come with a 9.6 volt one. So if you are going to stick with NIMH, upgrade to a 9.6 volt NIMH battery, and you'll find again that your rate of fire and your trigger response is improved slightly just by getting a decent quality battery. So that's the first item that we look at, and that's as easy as just buying a new battery and putting it in. Battery costs, not very expensive. If you're getting the lithium ion batteries, they're a little bit more expensive, but you're still only looking at around about 30 British pounds. LiPo batteries, you'll be able to pick one up for anywhere from about 15 pounds upwards, and NIMH batteries, again, they're a little bit more expensive, but no more than 30 pounds again. That'll be your upper top end there. So again, a cheap upgrade which will garner you some noticeable results. What next? Well, then your next, I would say, for easy upgrades is your motor. All AEGs run off an electric motor. If you're on an AR pattern replica like this, you'll need a long shaft motor, standard motor, AK pattern or AUG or things like that. G36s, they use a short motor. It varies with manufacturers sometimes, so just check online. There's loads of resources that will tell you what type of motor you have included in your replica. This is a standard Simon motor that came out of one of my replicas when I replaced it, and they're okay. They'll work. Like I say, if it's working and you're happy with the performance, then there's no need to change it. But if you put a high torque motor in the vast majority of replicas, you will get a noticeable improvement in trigger response. You'll also get a slight bump in rate of fire, even with a high torque. I don't tend to use high speed motors. I've not had a lot of experience with those, so I'm not recommending them. I've just had no experience with them, so I can't really tell you about them. I use high torque motors, which also future-proofs you for future upgrades within the gearbox. If you're looking to put stronger springs in, that type of thing, you've got a high torque motor in there, it'll be able to pull it. Now, again, a lot of people will tell you that there is a potential to cause damage within the gearbox by putting a stronger motor in, and that is very true. But, if something's going to break in there, it was going to break anyway, is my logic. You're just speeding up the process by increasing the performance, which is why in a lot of cases, I normally say if you're happy with it as is, then don't upgrade unless you really, really like tinkering. But a motor, the world's your oyster with motors. The standard motors tend to be relatively weak. I always notice a great improvement by putting a new high torque motor in. If you go for something like an SHS or rocket motor, high torque, you're not looking at a huge amount of money for those. Again, around about £30. You can go all the way up to a brushless motor, such as the Warhead ones, and you're looking at well over £100 British for one of those. So I would say if you're just starting out and you're looking to do an upgrade, try one of the high torques. If you're impressed with the performance, then there you go. That's an upgrade just by changing your motor. I did do a video on how to change the motor on an AR pattern replica, so check that out if you want to know how to do it. But it's very easy, very simple, one of the easiest modifications you can do. You don't have to open the gearbox. All you have to do is go in your pistol grip and put the new motor in, plug it in, pretty much, adjusted, and away you go. So there you go, £30, that'll get you into quite a performance increase. With your battery and your motor, you'll get a decent rate of fire and also better trigger response. So there you go, them are upgrades that you will notice a difference on. So we've covered batteries there. While we're on the subject of batteries, let me just get these connectors out here, because this is a modification that's well worth doing that doesn't involve taking the mech box apart. Unfortunately, you do have to do a bit of soldering, and that is Dean's connectors. I can't recommend a Dean's connector enough. Your replica, the vast majority, will come with mini Tamiya. That's a Dean's connector. This one's actually attached to a MOSFET because I've modified this rifle, but that's a Dean's connector. If you're any good at soldering, or if you have a friend that's any good at soldering, it's a really easy job. You're just changing like for like and changing out Dean's. Batteries can be bought already with a Dean's connector on, and obviously you can get Dean's connectors that you can solder on yourself and change your batteries over. Now, I did do a video on how to apply Dean's, so it's a very easy job if you can solder. Watch the video that I did on it, that'll show you how to do it, and I can't recommend Dean's enough. People will say that you'll see a difference in performance. I don't really see a difference in performance changing to Dean's. There will be better contact. It creates a better circuit. You've got less resistance in your connectors, and they can handle higher currents. But for me, it's just the convenience. They're just a much better connection, more solid. It's not going to come undone. They don't break as easy, and they are smaller. So it makes it so you've got a bit more room in wherever you're going to put your battery. If it's on an AR, in your buffer tube. So yeah, Dean's connectors is a well worth investment if you're looking at doing an upgrade, and to me that is an upgrade. A lot of manufacturers now have started to apply Dean's as standard. A lot of them do seem to think that it's a good idea, which I do as well. There are other connector options that you can go with, and if you fancy XT90s or 60s or something like that, then do your own research on those. But for me, I'm really happy with Dean's. So off we are with our battery, motor, Dean's connector. For me, that's the start of the basis of a decent electrical system. There's a lot more you can do. There's huge amounts of upgrades you can do, but we're just looking at simple things. If you have to tinker and you're new to it and you're looking for simple, relatively affordable things to do. So what's next? Well, you've got it firing a bit quicker, you've got better trigger response. Let's get those groups a bit tighter and get the BBs going where we want them to go. Now, if you find that your hop unit that is installed in your replica, if your replica can fire the weight of BB that you want over a decent range, then there's no need to change it, as I've said with everything else here. But if you want to improve it slightly, then the next thing to look at is changing your hop rubber and nub. Now this, I know, is not off an AEG. This is one of my sniper rifles, a maple leaf bucking. However, it was the one that I had closest to hand, so I thought I'd just grab it as an example. so there you go. You can change your hop rubber. Now, changing the hop rubber, again, very simple, very easy to do. You don't have to take the gearbox apart. It's especially easy on these AR pattern replicas. Nothing to it. I did do a video again on how to change the hop rubber and bucking. If you want to watch that video, it'll show you how simple it is, and that is guaranteed in most instances, depending on the rubber you get, to enable you to lift heavier weights and even to get a better hop action. So you get better range, better accuracy. Yeah, I could argue on the accuracy, but you certainly should get more range if you get a decent bucking for the area in which you play and the temperatures in which you play. And I did do a video explaining about the different degrees of bucking and how to pick one that you would want to use. So that's my next recommendation, is a new hop rubber to get some more effect there. And then finally, a barrel. If you want to put a newer barrel in there, then you can do. This is actually, again, a sniper barrel, a standard barrel out of an ASG replica. But it's just an example. That's how they come. That's your inner barrel. If you want to change your inner barrel out, again, cost-wise, you can spend a lot of money on an inner barrel, but you don't have to. I'd normally recommend a stainless steel inner barrel if you're going to upgrade. Make sure that you get an inner barrel that matches the length of the replica that you have, and it matches the inner barrel length that you have already, you can extend the inner barrels or you can shorten them, but then you get into the realms of needing to tune up your cylinder setup. If you don't, sometimes you can get a marginal bump in feet per second in power just by putting a longer inner barrel in, but obviously you don't want it sticking out the end of your outer barrel. It puts it at risk of damage, so you'd have to put something like a mech suppressor over the end then to cover up your inner barrel, but that is an option as well. But just by putting the standard length inner barrel in, but a better quality inner barrel made out of stainless steel, even if you want to go with a tighter bore, that can bump FPS because you've gone with a tighter bore, so the BBs there's less of a gap for air to escape round it, if that makes sense. There's a lot more to it than that, but just basically here. But that can give you a bump in FPS, and some people have noticed an improvement in range and even accuracy of the replica by changing the inner barrel. Now, a lot of mine have changed the inner barrels, and sometimes I get good results, sometimes not so much, but I know it's stainless, so it can't rust or get tarnished. So there you go. That's 5 items that you can quite easily change without going into the gearbox, without spending an absolute fortune, that should give you a noticeable improvement on your replica. Now, there is far more to it when it comes to upgrading replicas, but I've seen so many posts where people say, what should I change, what should I do? And I always think, well, don't change anything if it's me, unless there's improvements that you want. And don't expect massive improvements. It's marginal improvements. Some upgrades will give you a big improvement that you'll notice, like the motor. If you change the motor, you're going to notice an improvement. You change the battery, you should notice an improvement. The only thing I would say is to be very careful. You can do damage when you're doing upgrades. And at the same time, if you want to go more into upgrades, then you're going to start looking at opening up the gearbox. And obviously there's a bit more to it then. But if you're just looking at basic upgrades, that's 5 basic upgrades that are fairly reasonably cheap and easy to do. And it'll give you some improvement to the performance of your replica. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found that information useful. If you have any further questions for me about any of the items we've discussed here, then do drop me a comment. I'll always respond to a comment. I might not get back to you straight away, but I will respond to you. You can find Rock Bottom Airsoft on Facebook and Instagram if you want to check us out on there. And there's more pictures and things and discussions on there. And if you do enjoy this video, then please drop a like on it. And if you're enjoying my series of videos, then please do subscribe to the channel, and then that way you won't miss any of my uploads. But apart from that, I'll look forward to speaking to you in the comments, and I'll look forward to the next one. Thanks for watching.